Hope you're well. Hope you're well. Hope you're swell. Hope you're wavy. Hope you're wavy. Hope you're wavy. Hope you're gravy. Are you good? Doing a song a day challenge with a goal to drop a song a day until the end of the year. I drop 7 songs every Friday. 7 songs, so link in description if you want to hear what I dropped this past Friday. Link in description if you want to hear what I dropped this past Friday. And you can go to my YouTube Shorts tab if you want to hear some little song flavor. I always release little clips. I always release little YouTube Shorts just to give you a taste. Last night I was listening to this podcast, this Japanese podcast. They just talk about things happening in Japan, so on and so forth, and they were talking about how immigration has shot through the roof. So people from different countries are immigrating to Japan, and I think it's a good thing. It's helping their economy because they have a serious population crisis. They have a serious population crisis. People don't realize how serious the population crisis is in Japan. They don't have enough young people to fill the vacant job positions. They just don't, because people aren't having children, and they need people to fill those vacant jobs in order to bolster the economy. So I think Vietnamese make up 25% of the foreigners surging into the country. I think it's like 8 million foreigners in the country right now. A record high number. What's this thing flying around? So anyway. I think they need that. They don't have a choice. Some are opposed to it, but again, what choice do y'all have? The population thing, people blame the economy for not having kids and stuff like that, but I really think the issue is more mental. People just don't want kids. If people are just being honest, they just don't want to have children. It's not like they're just like, oh, I really want kids, but the economy's not letting me. It's like, I think the economy is just an excuse. These people aren't like dying to have children or something. They don't want children, and it also happens that the economy is making it difficult as well. All things considered, I think they'd still prefer a life without that responsibility. But the issue is population decline. And you have to ask yourself, how did we get into this position in the first place where the economy is struggling? Because, again, vacant job positions, vacant jobs. The economy is struggling. How did we get here? People weren't having children. It's one of the factors, at least. Might not be the primary. Might not be the... I'm sure there are many other things that are contributing to the economy failing. Maybe certain policy decisions, so on and so forth. But definitely one of the big ones is the fact that they have a lack of people supporting the economy, contributing to lower population equals lower tax base as well. Less people paying taxes. That also affects the economy. And things like service delivery and so on and so forth. So well, someone suggested as a solution to the problem of the population decline, women should enter the workforce in larger numbers. I'm like, wow, how's that going to help anything? Anyway, that's what led to this problem in the first place. That's probably one of the big reasons people are not having children, because women have other things to focus on. It's just been observed that this is statistical fact. When women are, have good careers that pay well and so on and so forth, and they're just working more, they're less likely to get married and have children. The amount of single childless women is skyrocketing. That demographic is becoming larger and larger and larger and larger. Single childless women. And that's because of this push towards career, and career being prioritized over other things like family and marriage. So when people say, oh, if you just make the women work more, they're going to have more children, it's like, make that make sense. Maybe the logic is that they'll have more money, and then they'll be, okay, I have more money now I can support a child. It's like, that's not how it works. Usually, more money means more money for myself. And you get into this mentality of, my life is pretty good the way it is. Why should I complicate it with children? Or you're just so, like, wrapped up in work, you're like, I don't have time for a kid. If you look at the most egalitarian societies, so let's look at Scandinavia, right? Scandinavia is this haven, according to people, where they get everything right, So this quote-unquote socialist paradise, it's not, but that's another story. Scandinavia, you could argue, is the most egalitarian region in the world. Egalitarian meaning basically, things are equal for men and women, there's equal opportunities, so on and so forth. Very progressive. Scandinavia has some of the lowest birth rates in the world. They are all below replacement rates. Every single one of those countries is below replacement rate. The highest replacement rate in Scandinavia is 2.05. You need a replacement rate of 2.1 in order for your population to grow and not decline. Every other one is like 1 point something. I think the lowest one is 1.3, which is ridiculous. When you have a replacement rate below 2.1, I think naturally your population starts to decline, and the amount of old people in your country starts to increase. So you start to have an older population, which is problematic because old people stop working, they retire, they stop paying taxes. At least do they stop paying taxes? Yeah, not significant tax, at least. The significant tax base is the youth, the people that are working in these jobs, in these careers. When you're retired, it's like you're retired. So you really depend on the workforce to pay taxes and stuff like that. So when the workforce is shrinking and the older population is growing and you need people to take care of them, but there aren't any people to take care of them because there are less young people, that breeds all sorts of problems. Scandinavia is a kind of experiencing that because their populations are shrinking at rapid rates, and below replacement rate. So give it a few years, things are going to get worse and worse. In the long run, right? I think the ultimate end to that is obviously just collapse. The society just collapses because there's not enough people to support the infrastructure and so on and so forth. But a lot of bad things happen along the way. Mainly the economy falls apart. And then you have to rely on mass immigration, and mass immigration is not ideal. Like mass immigration, there's a difference between immigration in healthy doses and mass immigration. Those are two different things. Mass immigration is when people just flood your country without any understanding of your culture, of your customs, of your norms. That's very problematic to a country that's trying to maintain structural integrity, social integrity, and maintain its values. It's very problematic. So, in the case of Japan, when you have a bunch of people coming from other countries, and they're essentially being encouraged to come and being paid to come in some instances, they're not coming because they learned about your country or something like that, and they're just so passionate about Japan. I want to go to Japan because I've been learning about it, and it's so cool, and I like the culture and the traditions and so on and so forth, and it'd be nice to visit and explore. That's an entirely different motivation than someone who is going there because they saw some advertisement that was like, come to Japan, you can get this work, and we'll give you this, and we'll give you that, and you can help our economy, and all these benefits. You're just going there for your work, for a job, for money, and so on and so forth. That person doesn't have to respect your traditions and your customs. You need them. They probably would have stayed where they were if it wasn't for you, because you're desperate at that point. Japan is desperate. Korea is desperate. A lot of these countries are becoming more and more desperate, and they're going to have to rely on immigration. Italy, they've said, like, look, guys, Italy also has a low birth rate. The prime minister was like, we know, okay, immigration, yada, 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 but we kind of need them. I know y'all aren't a big fan of it and all these sort of things, but we kind of need them. What choice do you have? Population is shrinking at a rapid rate. Your country will cease to exist if you don't do something, and do something quickly. So it's a failure of the younger people to just take on that responsibility and have children. And the basic function of a species is to reproduce. When a species is unable to reproduce, we say there's a virus, there's something sick. There's a sickness that's affecting that species. So what does it mean when human beings are not reproducing? So many countries around the world are falling below replacement rate. The populations are shrinking. What does it mean? There's a sickness. There's a virus. And it's a virus of the mind. There's a mentality that's spread across the world where it's like, I don't have to have kids. I can just live my life and have fun, and that's not a real responsibility. And people think like someone else would do it. That's kind of the mentality, like, someone else will do it, someone else will have children. But you don't understand that this mentality is spreading. Everyone's starting to be like, kids. Yeah, sure, there's some people that are having kids, but clearly it's not enough to grow the population. That's the goal. You need to grow. There is no like flat line. It's either you're growing or you're shrinking, basically. So, we need to fix the mentality of the youth right now and start prioritizing the right things. Women aren't happy. These jobs that they fight for aren't glamorous jobs. I don't know why y'all are fighting so hard to get into a 9-to-5 where you're miserable. The amount of women I've been seeing complaining online, making TikToks or whatever the case may be, complain, oh, 9 to 5 is so hard, my life is so, I don't have time for anything, and the rent is so expensive, and yada yada yada, all these things. It's like, I mean, blame feminism. It's that simple. It used to be that the man would work, the wife would, look, life is work in general, like you're gonna have to do something, so you can choose. You can either like be the person that takes, if you're a woman, be the person that takes care of your home and takes care of your children, and you cook, and you just maintain the household, and that's your life, and you work for your family, and you have, and that your schedule in that your schedule in that sense is a lot more flexible. Or, you can go to the corporate world and slave away there and incur all that stress and hardship. You choose. But every available metric tells us that women are way less happy now than they were just a few decades ago. I've spoken about how countries have happiness indexes, which basically measure the happiness of a population. And, they take these surveys, and based on the surveys of days gone and surveys of now, the here and now, women were happier back then than they are now. Despite all the problems of the previous periods we used to live in, women were happier then than they are now. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that their lives weren't as burdened by the corporate world and all these expectations of having to work these jobs. Might not be in the corporate world, but you're doing all these other sorts of jobs. Whereas before, your obligation was to your family. There'll always be women that want to do other things, and they always have been women historically that have, done other things that might be seen as traditionally masculine and so on and so forth. But that's always been a small number of people. I think what's unnatural about the time we're in now is that we're just applying that to every woman, as if there isn't a difference between men and women, and women genuinely gravitate towards one thing and men gravitate towards one thing, and there'll always be outliers, but we've started treating the outliers like the common folk. It's not how that works, and you're seeing all these problems emerge as a result. You're just ignoring reality. And when you ignore reality, you run into a brick wall. You're acting like that wall isn't there, and it's there. And I think women are hitting that wall and realizing, wow, what's going on? I mean, these are things common sense would tell you, like, but common sense is in extreme lack in this modern era. So what I would suggest to any young woman potentially watching this is reconsider your priorities in life. I think it's a blessing. It's beautiful to find a good man who can take care of you, and you can have children together, and you can just dedicate your life to building a home and nurturing the development of those children and contributing to society in that way, because that's a crucial job. Someone needs to do that job. They keep telling people that having kids is optional. It's actually not. For someone has to do it. If it's optional for everyone, that implies that we can just not have kids and we'll be fine. Clearly that's not the case, because we're currently seeing many countries around the world threatened by collapse because people are not reproducing. So someone has to do it. So it's just a lie that it's optional. It's not. So you're actually doing a great service just by having kids and raising them. It's not just this, it's a big job. But you're doing a huge service when you have children, and you take care of them and you raise them well. We can't underestimate that. These women that have these corporate jobs and whatnot, it's like, look, they do their jobs and then they die, and then no one remembers that. What have you really contributed? I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just, let's be real. When all is said and done, You worked at some marketing firm, you were a lawyer, you were this, you were that. What really happened? Like, what's your mark? Like, you could have been replaced by any amount, any person, anywhere, and nothing would have changed. It would have been exactly the same results. Whereas having children, you're actually growing the human population and allowing us to continue to enjoy the things that were built by generations past, because they observed tradition, they observed, and they bore the responsibilities that have to be born. And you can't have all these nice things, guys, all these fancy buildings and transport systems and so on and so forth. You can't have them if you're not reproducing. Someone has to maintain these things. If there isn't a population to maintain them, it'll all falls apart. So someone has to take on that burden, and it has to be most of us. The vast majority of us have to engage in this. I plan on having kids. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not scared of it, because it's a blessing from God, and kids are amazing. Kids are great, and it's the best experience I'll have in my life, raising children. It'll be challenging, but it's also rewarding. And I just believe people when they say that nothing compares to the joy and love you experience in raising your children and being with them. No amount of fun and money and wild experiences can measure up to that. It's incomparable. I believe them. There's a lot of people have said that, and I've seen in my own life the lengths my mom is willing to go to sacrifice for me and my brother, and that's real love, and the motivation she gets to provide a future for us. Clearly, that there's something about children that just takes your mind and your soul to a whole new level and changes your perspective. And the people who are just walking around not knowing what that's like, myself included for now, and it's like seeing the world in black and white. Like, you're not getting the full picture. You're not experiencing everything this world has to offer. Generally speaking, there's some people who just can't have kids for whatever reason, and the prayer is that they find that fulfillment in some other way. But for the vast majority of us, this is the way. And the more we resist it, the more we doom ourselves to extinction, you know? It's just common sense. You don't reproduce, you go extinct. So I hope like those with ears to hear can hear and just apply common sense that we need to have children, guys. It's not debatable. It's not a choice. It's not an option. We have to have kids. In the case of Japan, the culture is being threatened now. They're going to lose everything that they've spent centuries building if they're not careful. And I don't know how you can stop it when you're being flooded by immigrants, which might be necessary to bolster the economy. But what that leads to is just eventual casting aside of traditional norms in order to accommodate all these different people. It won't be by choice. People will just come and just do things their way, and you try and enforce the law, and eventually you realize there's no point. There's just too many of them, and you just cave. And then certain things were normal will become less normal, and eventually one culture will be replaced by other cultures, and there's nothing intrinsically wrong with multiculturalism. There are places in the world, like in America, for example, where different cultures coexist and kind of amalgamates into this one new culture or something like that. But in the case of Japan, it would be a shame to see this very unique thing just vanish and be replaced by something else. I don't think anyone wants to see that happen. You know, change happens, change occurs all the time, but we have to ask ourselves what change is necessary and what change is unnecessary. I think it's a shame to see something as beautiful the traditions of Japan just fade into obscurity. And also, I don't think whatever ends up replacing it will be superior. I think it'll be less. I think it'll be inferior by so many metrics. I think it'll just be this secular culture, secularism, if they're not careful at least. And just money-driven society, if they're not careful. You never know, they could find a way to integrate traditional Japanese culture into this new emerging culture and make something entirely new. But yeah, I don't think that. We'll see. We'll see. I don't think they're gonna get these young people to have kids. I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I think the only solution at this point is just to get immigrants to come in and help produce more children and so on and so forth. These young people are gone. They're out of it. I don't know if there's maybe there's how they can be saved and convinced to have children, but I think immigration is the way. So we'll see what happens in Japan. Just pray for the country and hope it survives this period of time. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Peace and blessing, all the good stuff. So, dear God, thank you for watching this right now. Thank you for making them whole, unique, and guiding them on path towards peace, prosperity, and purpose. Thank you for blessing this individual with wonderful people in their life who love them and take care of them, bring the best out of them. And thank you for maintaining the ones that are there to do the same thing. And thank you that you bless this individual with a spirit of gratitude so that they can give thanks for all the wonderful things in life. By giving thanks, they can find peace and contentment and attract even more and more blessings. Let your presence be felt in this person's life so they know that you're God, that you're real, that you're walking with them and providing for them, and that you love them so much. Good health, long life, and happiness over this individual and everyone they care about. In my name, in Jesus' name, I pray.